all your loved ones and advocates that are involved with this world that we wish we weren't involved with right now. And I want to thank the Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Center here at Cal State Fullerton. It's wonderful to have this put on every year, and wonderful that you're able to come out. And thank you for FAN for making this happen. And I'm very happy to be here and hope that you'll enjoy some of the things that I have to say and also the rest of the activities of the afternoon. If anybody needs to stand up, walk around, do anything to make themselves more comfortable, please feel free to do so at any point in time. We have hope that we're really going to be talking about today, really kind of sharing the collaborative research that's happening in the chronic pain, neuroimmune disease world. And I wanted to bring it to you today to talk about it and also talk about how you can also engage in some of the research that's going on, because it really takes a whole team of people to get this going, and it also takes the patient community to help us really fast forward research, unlike really any other time that we've ever done. So we're all together for a common goal here. We want to be free of pain. We want our loved ones to feel better. You want to get your life back. So I'm not here to talk the scientific talk today. I'm not here to talk about illness. I'm talk about really to give hope and really to kind of go over some of the actual research studies that are going on to guide let you know what's being done collaborative internationally as well. So since we're all here for community, and the first thing and the most important thing is getting to know each other and being out and celebrate the fact that you even came out today, I'd like you to take the first 3 minutes to introduce yourself to people that you don't know, that you're sitting next to. Introduce yourself to the person on your left, on your right, in front of you, behind you. Take 3 minutes. I'm going to just time it so it gives you some time. Go ahead. You know what? It's very similar. Let's bring everybody back here. We hope that you'll continue your conversations at lunch. All right. Everybody come back. So afterwards, when you're all relaxing, now you've met some people you can connect to afterwards, hopefully at the activities and the lunch. And we encourage that because that's why everybody's here today. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So like many of you, I'm in this world of chronic illness. I have a daughter who is now 23, and when she was 16, she was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I didn't know what it was. But what happened was she actually went to school, and it was the day after Labor Day. And I dropped her off at 8 o'clock, and at 8:20 she called me. And she never calls me. She's the person who could be sick and nobody knows it for another week. So she said, something's really wrong with me. And I had just dropped her off 20 minutes earlier. So I said, well, it's the day after Labor Day, you're tired, go to class and call me at the next break. So at 9 o'clock, I get a call from the nurse. You need to come and pick up your daughter. There's something major wrong with her. So from then on, our life changed completely. And it brought me here today. So it's as people say, it's a good thing that these kind of things happen to bring research to where it should be, and it takes an event to get people involved, and it took an event to get me involved. So we didn't know for at least 5-6 months what was wrong with her. She used to be a top A student. She was an excellent volleyball player. She had a full-time job. She had a lot of friends, and she was really never home. She was 16, and she was always out and about. Well, from then on, she was bedridden for a whole year. She only came out to go to the doctors, the 20 doctors, the 100 tests, flew all over the country. And I see a lot of you nodding because you've done the same thing, either with your loved one or yourself. And we didn't know what was wrong with her. We thought she was dying, actually. We thought there was some mysterious illness or cancer that nobody could diagnose, and she was dying because she couldn't eat, she couldn't sit up, she couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do anything at all. She could barely talk. So about 5-6 months after going to all these doctors, we ended up at UCLA, and UCLA rheumatology, pediatric rheumatology, diagnosed her with exclusion. She doesn't have this, she doesn't have this, she doesn't have this, she doesn't have this. It looks like she has chronic fatigue syndrome. This is UCLA. So we don't know what to do about chronic fatigue syndrome, so we're going to turn you over to pain management. So we ended up in the pain management group at UCLA. We tried cranial sacral therapy, neurofeedback, biofeedback, many things that are out there. Some help a little bit here, there. Meanwhile, we started looking for what can we do about this? I'm sure somebody's doing research. I just need to know about it. So started studying. Many of you probably spent hours and hours on the internet like I did. Studying, what am I missing here? There must be some doctors, there must be some people. Well, what I found that there wasn't some doctors and there wasn't some people. There were clinicians that were specialists in this field, but there were no treatments and there's no diagnosis to find out really what is going on. Have any of you seen the movie Lorenzo's Oil?
Oh, yeah.
So I just literally saw it 2 weeks ago. And I actually saw it because I was told to see it so many years, and I just couldn't see it so many years ago, and I finally took down. So it's about a child who's about 9-10 years old, and he had something called ALD. And when a child is diagnosed with this, they were living just a year or two afterwards. Well, it took the parents being told, there's nothing to do, there's nothing we can do. There is no treatment. You just have to kind of, live it, enjoy his next couple years if he has 2 years. They went to support groups. The support group said, well, we know there's no treatment, there's nothing being done, there's no research being done, there's not enough kids who have this. Well, the parents were relentless, and they started going to library, talking to scientists and talking to chemists and trying to find out what is the cause of this so we can find a treatment to help her son. It took the parents to do this, not the scientists, not the government, okay? They're not just sitting complaining, they actually did something about it. Well, when I saw this movie, well, first of all, let me tell you the end of the story, which is a really good story. He was about 9-10 years old. He lived to about 30 years old. And to this day, kids with ALD, they now have treatments because they finally figured out and how to understand this illness. But when I saw the movie, I realized I wasn't doing enough. I'm a parent. I have to be able to cure my daughter. So we did start a nonprofit years ago, Neuroimmune Disease Alliance, in hope to do and find research that's happening that we could fund. But we were small, family, friends, trying to raise some funds. So I ended up, because of that nonprofit, ended up really finding some people who wanted to do something major and bring some collaborative leaders together to really find out what is happening with neuroimmune disease. So I ended up finding somebody in Europe that had a nonprofit there who contacted me and said, we got to set up a meeting. I want to set up a meeting, but it has to be in the United States, so we can bring people from Europe and the United States together, and we need to bring people in immunology and all the ologies you could possibly think of to find and crack this thing. So we did that, and I'm going to tell you about it. So a small group of thoughtful people can change the world, and indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we're the ones that have to make things happen. Working together to solve these mystery illnesses. Are they all the same? Are they similar? Symptoms are very, very similar between these. People with fibromyalgia, many of them have chronic fatigue syndrome. People with chronic fatigue syndrome, many have fibromyalgia. People have Lyme disease and chronic fatigue syndrome. Multiple illnesses, multiple symptoms, similar problems. We need to solve it. We need to find out why. When we start solving these immune system problems, we will be able to find and help a lot over the whole panel of neuroimmune illnesses. So just to kind of give you some numbers to kind of compare to, I had a wonderful gentleman named John pull some information for me from PubMed. And CDC has their own estimates, but as you know and I know, so many people aren't even diagnosed and so many people aren't even counted. So it's obviously the minimum. These are the minimum numbers. So fibromyalgia, literally over 5 million people. This is just the United States. It's really double. It's really breast cancer and prostate cancer combined in numbers. MECFS, the epidemiology studies of 2003, they really only counted adults, and there's many kids and adolescents who have it. This is 1.9 million just in the United States. CDC says there's about 4 million or so in the United States, and so many people aren't diagnosed. There's probably only 20% or so people that are diagnosed anyway. So there's many more people. Worldwide, I've seen numbers from 8 to 20 million. And just comparing it to autism and HIV, post-treatment Lyme, similar symptoms, these are numbers that the CDC came out with. Looking at published titles, research gone to publication so that other people could share the data. In 2007, Lyrica was approved by the FDA, and it kicked in some additional research, which is wonderful, kicked in some additional research dollars. So you'll be able to, as you see, it's a little bit of an increase, and obviously we hope to have a much more major increase. MECFS, not as much. Now, starting this year, research is really happening in neuroimmune illnesses like never before, because we're pulling it all together with a collaborative effort of doctors that are really coming to the table to take a look at this. But as you see through the years, it's been going on for years and years. There hasn't been very much going on. So neuroimmune illness, past, present, and future. So as many of you have unfortunately had this for a long time, you've been told you're lazy, crazy, depressed. Our daughter's doctor actually told me that we were, as parents, the ones causing this. She was in the hospital at the time, and she couldn't stay conscious. And every time she went unconscious, she was unconscious for 40, 45 minutes. And they pulled us aside after 5 days of this and said, we need to tell you something very serious that you're not going to like. And I thought, oh my God, she has a brain tumor. And they said, you parents are causing this. You need to take her out of the hospital right now, and you need to go home and send her back to school. This was at Thousand Oaks Hospital. I won't even mention the name. But anyway, I said, are you kidding me? I said, I'm not taking her out of the hospital until she stops passing out. They said, well, you're going to have to because we're not going to have it paid. I said, I'm not taking her out. And I didn't. I didn't take her out of the hospital. She couldn't stay conscious. Anyway, now present. The FDA we've come to the table to the FDA with neuroimmune illnesses. You might have, if you're on any blogs and reading any information, FDA has been brought to the table a number of times. They're finally trying to find out what this neuroimmune illnesses are. The CDC is funding a study that I'll tell you about in a little bit, looking at diagnosis, looking at treatment among disease illness. More medical professionals are now acknowledging that it's an illness. And the hope for the future is the widespread agreement on the nature of neuroimmune illnesses, and obviously it takes research to get that far. For diagnosing, many people aren't diagnosed or misdiagnosed, and most people don't even know what they have because they have different and multiple diagnoses. It's a diagnosis of exclusion now, mostly. Research is aimed at finding a biomarker, which is something that I'm really pushing for in whatever way I can, is to find things that you can actually test for and test yes, test no. Hopefully we'll have a biomarker to rule diagnosis or rule out. Treatment options, still giving antidepressants, analgesics, prescription drugs that mask symptoms, and there's some trials going on that we'll talk about in a little bit of some drugs that are starting to have some effect on MECFS. And hope for the future, improve symptoms by either drugs or other methods, natural treatments, other types of things like that. So Dr. Dan Peterson is one of the pioneers in neuroimmune illness because he was the doctor up in Incline Village, Nevada, that patients started coming to in groves, about probably 250 to 300 patients in a very short period of time started coming to him with these similar symptoms. He was an internal medicine doctor. So this was in the early 80s. So when they started coming to him and they were having similar symptoms, started looking around, thought there was an epidemic called CDC in. So this is when the CDC came to take a look at, in this case, chronic fatigue syndrome that they called chronic fatigue syndrome. This is where the name came from. Horrible name. They've been trying to change it ever since. Horrible name. But he saw many patients with neuroimmune illness, thinking maybe it's a virus, maybe it's an epidemic, what's going on. And from 30 years to now, still questioning, is it a virus, what's going on, what's causing it? But he's been in the game all this time, and he's really the pioneer. And what he did was he saved spinal fluids from patients from 30 years ago on, including my daughter's spinal fluid. When anybody came to him that he diagnosed or was sent to him because they were diagnosed with a neuroimmune illness,